Hi, I'm so happy that we have the privilege to welcome Rav Eisenstein and ask him this great question that I'm sure a lot of you have. At this time of year especially, what should a person's approach be when it comes to Yom Noraim, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur? We're going to spend a lot of time in davening. But what should our approach be? I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, first of all, Rabbi Yaakov, I just want to say that it's really special to be talking with you in the context that you're a mashpia in your very, very special way on your talmidim, your friends, your clients, and so on. My biggest concern that many people have going into Yom Noraim is that they come into it scared. Scared in the sense that if you're an honest thinking person, you recognize, and these last few years have definitely reminded us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is really, really in control. Through Corona, through the war here in Eretz Yisrael, things that people were sure about was safe, was not safe. The things that people thought would never happen have happened in terms of the miracles that have taken place in Eretz Yisrael. And so any thinking person believes in God and recognizes that God's in control, and Yom Noraim is a time that are referred to as Yimei Hadin. But the Ramchal writes that when we say Zachreinu L'chaim Melech Chafetz B'chaim, when we talk about Chafetz B'chaim, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. What does it mean he's Chafetz B'chaim? There are two givens in life, and the death and taxes. So what exactly does it mean that he's Melech Chafetz B'chaim? And the answer to that question of in what way he is a Chafetz B'chaim is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to find real meaning. A person could be alive and he's really dead, and then we know tzaddikim b'misasam are kruyim chayim. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants our lives to not be one that are stuck in olam hazeh, but one that includes and incorporates olam haba. So a person who goes through life and they're afraid, and they go into Yimei Hadin scared because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control, they're actually missing the essence of what the Yimei Hadin are. The Yimei Hadin is a time for us, and that's what Tshuva is all about, is to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to choose true life. It's a Beferish Maccabee song. Give us life. Give us real life. Give us true life. And what that means, what does that mean practically? So let's explain what that means. The Meiri describes someone who does tshuva. In page 51, in the Beis HaBechira of the Meiri, he describes someone who does tshuva and he comes back to the same Aveira the next year. And the Meiri describes him as someone whose signoin rama'oid, his style is off. He doesn't explain what the style being off means. But I heard from Rav Yaakov Katz that what the Meiri is referring to is that he's doing a tshuva not because he wants to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but he's doing tshuva because he knows that we get punished for bad things and we get rewarded for good things. A person who does tshuva for that in that vein, the odds are he's going to come back to the same spot. Rather, a tshuva that is based on the fact that I want my life to be more elevated, I want my life to be more meaningful, I want my mouth to be one that conveys concern and care and love to fellow Jews and all human beings, as opposed to a mouth that puts people down, that speaks in a way that doesn't reflect me being a Tzelem Elokim. So now I'm not doing it because I'm afraid that speaking Lashon Hara is a bad thing, but rather what I'm doing is that I want to elevate myself. And that's what it means, Melech Chafetz B'chaim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us. And Habol Atar Messiah, so the one who comes to purify himself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is going to help him. Why? Because we can relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Elokim, Or we could relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Yud Kei Vav Kei. Elokim refers to the farmer who recognizes, and all of us are really just farmers. But once upon a time, a farmer, when he planted his seeds, had no idea whether his crop was going to succeed or not. You and I think we're going to succeed because we signed the contract for a certain amount of time, or the way it works is going to be like this or like that. So we think that it's going to succeed. So we have less, unfortunately, than we even perceive the Elokim less. But even the farmer that perceives the Elokim less, at the end of the day, if he's doing the tshuva because he reads the words Melech Hafetz B'chaim in terms of physical life, so that at the end of the day, his tshuva is about dodging bullets. It's what I like to call flat Stanley. Our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu could be flat, or our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have 3 dimensions. Flat Stanley is where God is up here, He's Elokim, I'm down here, and either God is, God forbid, going to zap, or God is going to throw candies at me. That's the relationship with Elokim. The relationship with Yud Kei Vav Kei is a relationship which says, no, I am part of something eternal. God is eternal, it's HaYehovah V'yeh, and I want to be connected to it. Why? Because it's the best way of living. It's the happiest way of living. The moment in which I aspire to a godly way of living, it's the happiest way of living. So that's what Rav Friedlander is quoting from the Rachal, Zachreinu L'chaim. So your question was, now, how do we approach Yimei Hadin during our tumultuous times? So, how are we perceiving these tumultuous times? Are we perceiving these tumultuous times from the perspective of Elokim, or are we perceiving these tumultuous times through the perspective of Yud Kei Vav Kei? That's a question. We could discuss what that means in terms of the war. We could discuss what that means in terms of Corona. My father, Olav Shalom, passed away at the end of Corona. We could discuss what that means in many, many different contexts, in the historical context of the amazing time of Tavshin Pei Hey, going into Tavshin Pei Vav. Or maybe we should take a step back and say, maybe that's for the next episode. In other words, maybe what we should be doing now is first asking ourselves, why are we doing tshuva? Why are we doing tshuva? What are we looking for in tshuva? I'll conclude, and to drive this point home, it's amazing that if you take a look, we daven Ma'ariv together tonight. The pasuk that we said is V'hu rachel michaper avam when we begin Ma'ariv. Now most people, they're getting their siddur, or they're finishing up the conversation, or they're upset that the chazan didn't say Shir Amalas, but how many of us concentrate when we say the words V'hu rachel? Nevertheless, those words people associate with kapara. But you know what the pasuk says immediately prior? This is Tehillim Ayin Zayin. The pasuk says V'libam lo'inachon imo. It's describing Klal Yisrael doing tshuva in the time of the Midbar, and it says their hearts were not straight yet. Nevertheless, v'hurachim. So what does that mean? The answer is that if a person is sincere and he does tshuva, as Charad Alvar Kabbalah Asid, even if his style is off, the Meiri writes this, even if his style is off, he will get his sins erased. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to come back to the same place next year. Because if he's doing it because he just doesn't want to be zapped, that at the end of the day, if he's not aspiring for something bigger or something better, he's going to come back to the same place. So I guess our first step in terms of thinking about our tshuva is how could we progress in our relationship that's going to culminate. How's it going to culminate on Yom Kippur night? Hashem hu ha'elokim. In other words, I don't separate Elokim from Hashem. That Elokim that I fear, that's really HaYehovah V'yeh. That's a father that loves me. That's a father that cares for me, and that is a connection that I have to eternity. And I'm doing tshuva not because I'm afraid, because I'm doing tshuva because that is the best way of living. And what does the Ramchal write in the beginning of Mesilas Yesharim? That the ultimate pleasure is to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So hopefully this year the tshuva, our tshuva, halavai, my tshuva should have 1/1,000,000th of what I just said, but that we should be zocha that our tshuva have a little bit of Hashem Hu Elokim.